Welcome to Learn Commerce PU online classes. Don't forget to like our video and subscribe our YouTube channel for all the updates.
Hello students, welcome to English online classes. Dear students, in the last class we read and we discussed the 11th lesson, that is Japan and Brazil through a traveler's eye by George Mikesh. In that we discussed that the importance of travelogue and the Japanese culture. When we were studying, when we were reading Japanese culture, we learned that Japanese are well-mannered people and bowing is their culture. Fine, we were discussing about bowing, right? Bowing is infectious everywhere, we heard, and it is done with a quainter, in a formal and in an oriental way. And next, today let us see what are the hierarchies that are practiced by the people of Japan in bowing. So, Japanese have a complicated hierarchy in bowing. What is the complicated hierarchy? Here, you will discover that Japanese have complicated hierarchy in bowing. Who bows to whom, how deeply and how long. So, here hierarchy in the sense who has to bow whom, there is some rules, okay, and there is according to the position of the people they have to bow each other, and here how long they have to bow, to whom they have to bow, at what time they have to get up, who has to get up first. These are all the hierarchies, but there is no written rules, but it is practiced by Japanese without any difficulties. Here it is compared, or the author George Mikesh, he has said that one of the American states had an early traffic law which laid down that if two cars met at an intersection, neither was to move before the other had gone. Similarly, if two Japanese bow, neither is to straighten up before the other stands erect in front of him. Unless one gets up, another is not permitted, or another should not get up. And who has to get up first? Who has to bow first? Who has to get up first? That is clearly understood by the people, but the stranger, he will not understand this. And then in a family, some of the rules are practiced for bowing. Here especially in family, the wife has to bow to her husband, then children has to bow to their parents, then brothers, younger brother has to bow to the elder brother, and all the sisters have to bow to their brothers. This is the hierarchy that was followed in the family. And not only in the family, some of the shops in Japan, even they appoint the girls. How we have secretaries or how we have page boys in European countries to welcome the customers to the shops. Even they appoint the bowing girls in a Japanese shop. So, bowing is very important. It is the culture of Japan. So, the shops in Japan, they appoint the bowing girls to welcome the customers to their shops. And another incident here, George Mikesh, he is narrating that in the bus, the conductors, the bus which is going from Tokyo and Osaka, there in a Tokaido line, okay, there what happens? The conductors, they enter the bus in a dramatical way and they bow to each other, bow to both the sides, and then what do? They collect the tickets. This is also you can find in buses. So here you can see how Japanese they are practicing, or they are it is a routine to them. Okay, it is in everyone's blood, it is lingered, or it is cultivated. So those who born in Japan, they automatically learn this kind of culture. Even the working lady who is or the mother who is carrying her babe in her back, you might have seen how Japanese are carrying their babies. We carry in the hand, but they carry in their back. They tie their children to their back, and when the mother is bowing, even the child bows. So the child learns bowing from there itself. And next, how this bowing is deeply rooted in Japanese. For that he is giving the example of a deer. Once he goes to the zoo in Nara, and there a deer, he finds a deer. There the deer comes and it bows, and then it snatches the packet from author's hand. So here author he is describing how the practice is that is deeply rooted in the Japanese culture, that he is explaining here by giving some of the examples. Then after that he is speaking about how these well mannered cultured people, they turn into savages. So this culture is practiced by everyone, but still that some of the savages attitude or that selfish attitude, it will be with everyone, right? So that is there with the Japanese too. And one more thing I am saying, dear students, whatever George Mikesh is said, it is not, it may not be true. It may not be true in the sense, all may not be like the same what he has said. This is through a traveler's eye. This is his individual opinion. If you go to Japan and you might not find this kind of culture. Okay, when you go Japan, you might feel different. You may not feel what George Mikesh had felt. Okay. So there are different opinions. So we cannot confine, or we cannot fix into one's opinion, and we cannot decide it is true. Okay. Some might feel that they are very good in culture and they practice even in the terrible situation, etc. But here what Mikesh is saying, in this too, the deer was true Japanese. In the sense, here as I said, the deer that bowed to the author, and then it snatches the packet from his hand. So he is saying in this, in bowing, the deer is also true Japanese, he is saying. In the sense, even the practice of bowing is deeply rooted in all those who are born in Japan. You can often see people bowing to each other with ceremonious serenity at bus stops. As soon as the bus arrives, the bowing gentlemen are transformed into savages. They push each other aside, tread on each other's toes, and show their elbows into each other's stomachs. See here, this mannered, cultured and simple people, how do they behave in the bus stops? When the bus arrives, when they find each other in the bus stops, they bow each other, and when the bus arrives, everyone rushes to the bus to climb, and they stamp each other's legs and elbows, they do the elbows, etc. So here we can see the manners of Japanese. Then another manner he is speaking about Japanese, that was eating soup. How one should eat soup in Japan. Eating soup has more dangerous than almost anything else. When eating soup, you must make a fearful noise. It is a sign of appreciation. If you do not, your hostess will think, what an ill-mannered lot. But if you do, she will think, no reasonably well brought up European makes such disgusting noises when eating soup. He must be an ill-mannered lot. So, it is very dangerous in Japan eating soup. How to eat soup? One must eat soup with the disastrous fearful noise. Okay, one must make a fearful noise while eating the soup. Here, if you do not eat the soup by making noise, what the hostess will think? The hostess will think that it's an ill-mannered lot, doesn't have the manners. So, what is the sign of making noise? Is a sign of what? It's the sign of appreciation. If the soup is nice, it's tasty, then you have to enjoy it and you have to eat, and while eating you have to make the noise. And if it is not made, the noise is not made, then what happens? If you do such thing in Europe, if you do the noise or if you make the noise while eating soup in Europe, what will be the situation? The situation will be ulta. What they may think that he is an ill-mannered lot. Making noise in Europe, it is ill manner. Without making noise, eating soup in Japan, that is also ill-mannered. That is also ill manner. Okay, so it is very dangerous to eat soup in Japan, who George Mikesh is saying. So, dear students, here we are learning about the Japanese manners and cultures. Sometimes we feel that our culture is better than others' culture, but the people, according to their country, according to their geographical situation, they are practicing their own cultures. In Japan, they are practicing that. In India, we are practicing that is folding, joining hands and bowing, all these things. So, they may find it very strange, and touching the feet and begging the blessings, they may find it very strange. And these are the things, the difference we can find from one territory to another, one country to another, one religious to another. So, here the world is full of different types or different practices, etc. And there is unity. We have to find unity. We have to respect each one. Whose practice also we do not have the right to object that, because that is their practice. One community or one group of people, if they are practicing this, nobody has the rights to question that practices. One has to respect. That is the thing we have to do. We may find it strange or we may find it odd, but we do not have the rights. We can discuss, but we do not have the rights to object or to stop that. Okay. Then George Mikesh, he is speaking about traffic in Brazil. So, what traffic he observed in Brazil? What kind of traffic is there? Let us see. Nobody hurries in Brazil. It does not really matter whether you reach your destination an hour too soon, a day late, or not at all. The grey pavements in the streets of Copacabana are often decorated with beautiful black mosaics, a unique type of decoration. Only a people alive to beauty in their surroundings and who have plenty of time for contemplation during their meditative ambulatory exercises would take the trouble to decorate the pavements they walk on. So, dear students, here in the first paragraph, it is explained about the streets of Copacabana, the streets in Brazil, how the streets are decorated and how the people in Brazil, they give importance to the time. It may be to the traffic or it may be about the time. Nobody hurries in Brazil. So here nobody hurries. We hurry up, we ride fast in the roads because we have to reach on time. But no, in Brazil nobody hurries. It does not really matter whether you reach your destination and are too soon, a day late or not at all. Nobody matters at what time you reach, whether you reach early or late, no, a day late, a hour late, nobody used to ask there. But the pavements in the streets of Copacabana are often decorated with beautiful black mosaics. How our houses are decorated? Definitely with beautiful mosaics or granites or tiles, etc. Right? Interior designs we do and we decorate our houses. But in Brazil, they decorate the pavements. Pavements in the sense what? Footpath. Okay? Footpaths are decorated with the beautiful black mosaics. Who has the time? Who spends money on that? Okay? In Brazil, they spend money. Those who have the interest in the art and music, they used to spend their time in decorating that. A unique type of decoration. Only people alive to beauty in their surroundings and who have plenty of time for contemplation during their meditative ambulatory exercises. So, meditative ambulatory in the sense the moving exercise, okay, would take the trouble to decorate the pavements they walk on. Those who are alive to beauty in their surroundings, those who want their surroundings beautiful, and those who are interested in that, they used to spend their time in decorating those beautiful pavements with the beautiful mosaics. Then in that beautiful mosaics, who will have the will to walk hurrying by who wish to hurry in that? Definitely one likes to enjoy in walking that, definitely, right? So here people in Brazil, they did not give much importance to the traffic or to the time. However, as soon as these easy-going, leisurely character get a steering wheel in their hands, no speed is fast enough for them. You would then be inclined to believe that gaining a tenth of a second is a matter of grave importance for all of them all the time. While walking, the people in Brazil, they do not bother about the time, at what time they reach. But those leisurely, those easy-going characters, those who are spending time in decorating the pavements, etc., those people, those who do not give importance to the time to reach their destiny, once they get the steering wheel, they drive like anything, that you must think that 1 second is important for them. That much fast. Fast is not enough for them. How much fast they go, that also not enough for them. That kind of driving they do. As soon as these easy-going leisurely carriers get a steering wheel in their hands, no speed is fast enough for them. How much speed the meter will run in the vehicle, you might know. That much speed is also not enough for them. And one must think that a tenth of a second is matter of grave importance for them. Okay. Then motor cars are extremely expensive in Brazil. In Brazil, motor cars are very expensive, but how the people they treat? Import duties being crippling and murderous. Only a few other poorer South American states are in a worse position in this respect. Complaints are universal. Hardly anyone can afford a car. Yet this only means that the number of motor vehicles is growing by leaps and bounds, almost as if cars were distributed free of charge to all and sundry. Thus, the pedestrian's life is becoming more hazardous every day. So, here what happened? The cars in Brazil, they are very expensive. Those import duties and the taxes, they are crippling and murderous. Okay, one is very difficult to afford for that. But everyone has a car in Brazil, as if it is freely given to everyone. Though it is expensive, everyone possessed cars in Brazil. And the author is saying that as if for everyone somebody has given cars as a gift or for free of cost. So, this happens with everyone, right? Though the people cannot afford, they have to, the people, they desire to have that, and to fulfill that desire they do what not, and somehow they arrange money. How much it is difficult also, it is not a matter to them. So, to achieve their dream or to make their dream successful. And only few other poorer South American states are in a worse position in this respect. Complaints are universal. Hardly anyone can afford a car. Yet this only means that the number of motor vehicles is growing leaps and bounds. Though there are complaints that motor cars are expensive, day by day the number is growing leaps and bounds. Whereas quickly the car holders are growing in the number of car holders is growing in Brazil, almost as if the cars were freely distributed of charge to all and sundry. Thus, the pedestrian's life is becoming more hazardous every day. So, when everyone possesses the cars, there will be definitely traffic jams in the roads, right? You might have seen earlier in our cities, or if you go to Mangalore, there were only few cars, few buses, few vehicles. Now you go to Udupi or Mangalore or anywhere you go, you can find number of vehicles and you have to wait for a few 5 to 10 minutes to cross the road, right? The same thing happened in Brazil also. Here, when the number of cars increased in the country, the pedestrian's life was becoming more hazardous. What is there? Why the pedestrian's life has to become more hazardous? What is the relationship with the pedestrians and those vehicle bearers or owners? The vehicle, those who possess vehicle or cars, they go by themselves, and the pedestrians, they walk by themselves, and there are pavements specially meant for the pedestrians. Pedestrians in the sense dari hokar, those who go by walk in the streets. It is not that drivers do not care about pedestrians. The trouble is that they do care about them. They are in fact on the lookout for them. As soon as a driver notices a pedestrian step off the pavement, he regards him as a fair game. He takes aim and accelerates. The pedestrian has to jump, leap and run for dear life. He does not resent this in the least. Driver and pedestrian, hunter and prey, smile amicably at each other. I win today, you will win tomorrow, fair enough. So, what happens in Brazil? Here ironically George Mikesh might have defined this traffic in Brazil. So, he said pedestrian's life becomes more hazardous. So, how the pedestrian's life was more hazardous? It is not that drivers do not care about pedestrians. The drivers, they do not care about the pedestrians. They wait the pedestrians to step on the road. Why? Because they wanted to play a fair game with the pedestrians. The trouble is that they do care about them. They do care about them. They are in fact on the lookout for them. They always search for the pedestrians. Why? Why they have to search for the pedestrians? What do they do with the pedestrians? As soon as driver notices a pedestrian step off the pavement, He regards him as a fair game. He accelerates his car as if he is chasing the pedestrian, and pedestrian what he does? He leaps, he jumps and he runs for his dear life. Yeddu biddu odudu anteli we say no, the same thing the pedestrians they do to save their dear life, and that much fast the people accelerates in Brazil. So here George Mikesh he might have said this because by seeing the speed of whom these Brazilians, okay, he does not resent this in the least. Driver and pedestrian, they are like a hunter and prey, but they don't complain each other, don't scold each other. If somebody does something in our area or in our country, how the reaction would be, how we would react? Dane kerpana, dane saipana, these are our common dialogues, we scold, right? And than that some people use bad words also to the to the drivers, and if we find such drivers, what the people will do? They will definitely drag him out of the seat, and definitely they will give him nice charges, right? So this is not happens in Brazil, okay. In Brazil they take it in a light way, and both they take it like a game, and they don't complain to each other, don't grumble on each other, they take it as a fair game, okay. And if one wins today, another waits to win for win tomorrow, okay. This kind of attitude of the people he is explaining in his travelogue. Then the war between, this is the game between driver and pedestrians. Now here he is explaining the war between drivers themselves is murderous but good tempered. They cut in, they overtake on both sides, they force you to brake violently and commit all the most heinous crime of the road, and 20 times every hour. But they smile at you. The same time there is no anger, no hostility, no mad hooting. So here what is he saying? He is saying that the drivers, there is a competition between the drivers, there is a murderous fight between the drivers. How the murderous fight? If you might have travelled in express buses, you might have seen sometimes if the earlier bus is bit late, the next bus driver, his aim is to chase that first bus and to collect all the passengers of that bus, right? And here is also the same thing, but not in that way, okay. Here what happens in our place or in our country, the people, if the drivers they overtake you and they make you to brake suddenly, what happens? Here we give the bad words like anything. One should clear his ears by using some sanitizers, right? That much what bad words the people in India we give, right? Kerpana, saipana, dane, illa pandit jana, all these words we are using in our while scolding, right? But here what happens in Brazil? They are not like that. The war between drivers themselves is murderous but good tempered, so cheerful, okay. And what kind of a war? They cut in, suddenly they take cut, okay, while riding or while driving fast, suddenly they cut. So what you have to do? Obviously you have to brake suddenly. When you brake suddenly, what happens? Those who are behind you, even they have to brake, and when there is no control, definitely they have to dash or they have to push each other. Then what happens? They force you to brake violently and commit all the most heinous crimes of the road. Most heinous crimes in the sense most morally bad, the worst crimes you have to do. Morally bad in the sense if one suddenly brakes in the sense automatically those who are back they have to brake and they have to dash each other, and there is definitely a kind of damage to the vehicles. Okay, but they smile at you the same time. There is no anger, no hostility or no mad hooting. There is no shout, no enmity, no complaint, nothing. They take it as it's a fair game, and they smile at each other. Easily they are taking. And another thing you have to notice, dear students, to ride like that or to drive like that, even the roads should be very neat. They must be very clean. There should not be holes in the road, right? If such things are there, is it possible to drive so fast? No, definitely you won't get such a situation, right? And here in India, both situations are practiced and they turn in a different way and they resulted also in a different way. Fine, whatever it may be, we know what happens in our country. Let us learn what happens in other country too. Then George Mikesh, he is speaking about one more town in Brazil that is always crowded with the or always busy with the traffic. That is, the Avenida Presidente Vargas is the worst place of all. You stand there trying to cross the road and contemplating the truly fascinating problem. How can crawling traffic proceed at such terrifying speed? As hour after hour passes without a ray of hope and auspicious crossing, you may witness a scene, something like this. A man on your side of Avenida Vargas suddenly catches sight of a friend of his on other side and starts waving to him, at the same time looking completely mystified. How on earth did you get over there? He shouts across, trying to make himself heard above the traffic. It is the other fellow's turn to be surprised by this naive question. He yells back, "How? I was born on this side." So this is a sarcastic or ironical remark of George Mikesh about the traffic. So in Avenida Presidente Vargas, it is the worst place for traffic, and if you stand in one side trying to cross the road and contemplating the truly fascinating problem, you take it or you feel it as a very big problem to cross the road, okay, because you don't get the time or you don't get the chance to cross the road. You have to wait for hours to cross the road, and if you get the chance, you will be the luckiest one. So here, how can crawling traffic proceed at such terrifying speed? This is the question raised. Those who are walking on the streets, they are not at all bothered about the time, but those who are driving, they go as if the time is or the speed is not enough for them. So this is the contrast attitude of the people in Brazil, especially traffic. A man on your side, and he is narrating or he is telling one incident that a man in Avenida Presidente Vargas, there suddenly he catches a sight that his friend is standing on the other side, and the man who is standing in one side, he used to wave and he used to ask his friend, "Hey, how would you reach there? When did you reach that side?" From that side, what was the reply? And it was surprising reply that, "How? Whether is it possible to reach this side? I was born this side itself." In this, it is very impossible to cross the road, he means. Dear students, this is what Mikesh, he is expressing his opinion about this Brazil's traffic and Japanese culture. Here, while concluding, let me discuss a few points regarding the travelogue and regarding the culture. Here George Mikesh, he has expressed all his experience in a what interesting way by defining how he has used his language, or how he used his talent of writing to make one curious to read. We would have read, if we write in a simple and in a quiet way, one might get the information, but one may not find it interesting. But when you read this, you find it interesting. And another thing is that here the travelogue that makes us to know about the strange things which are practiced in other countries or other places than our native places. And also sometimes we have to learn something from other culture too. Maybe bowing or practicing bowing from childhood itself. All these things we have to learn from our childhood itself, and we have to teach our children in the schools or in houses, etc. That culture must be inculcated in us. And it is becoming savage or becoming uncultured, it is everywhere. We cannot say that only some people are uncultured or only few countries are uncultured. No, everyone are human being itself. So the behavior, that is not same every time. So everyone will be uncultured or in some or other way, not in all the ways. So here George Mikesh, he has given this he had shared his experience going to Japan and Brazil. Okay, so read this and enjoy not only his experiences. If it is possible, try to read the travelogues or travel history of people, those who have travelled to many places. You will get more information. Though you cannot go, you will come to know about such place, some of the new places, some of the specialities of the places. And in future, if you are destined to go there, definitely you will be very curious, and you will be the information will be helpful to you to know more about the places. By saying this, I would like to call it a class. Thank you.
Don't forget to like our video and subscribe our YouTube channel for all the updates.